Jinho Park woke up with his head pounding like someone had used it as a drum. Everything felt wrong. The air smelled different, sort of sweet but metallic. The surface under him was too soft, almost like floating on water but solid at the same time. He tried to move his arms and felt resistance, not painful but firm, like invisible hands holding him down. His eyes snapped open and immediately he wished they hadn't. The ceiling above him glowed with soft purple light that seemed to pulse gently. Nothing looked familiar. This wasn't his shuttle. This wasn't any human ship he'd ever seen. Panic shot through his chest like ice water. "Where am I?" he croaked out, his throat dry and scratchy. A sound came from his left, soft and musical like wind chimes in a breeze. Jinho turned his head quickly, too quickly, and pain lanced through his ribs. He gasped and tried to sit up, fighting against whatever was holding him down. Then he saw her. She stood about 6 feet tall with skin that glowed a soft blue color, like moonlight on ocean water. She had 4 arms, each one moving independently with grace that seemed impossible. Her eyes were large and dark, taking up much of her face, and they looked at him with something he recognized even across the vast difference between their species. Concern, maybe even kindness. But Jinho's brain wasn't thinking about kindness right now. His training kicked in. Unknown location, unknown species, possible hostile situation. He thrashed harder against his restraints. The creature made more musical sounds and one of her hands reached toward a panel on the wall. Before Jinho could figure out what she was doing, a wave of calm washed over him. Not natural calm, forced calm. Something was affecting his brain, making his muscles relax even though every instinct screamed at him to fight. "Please remain still," a mechanical voice said from somewhere near his head. "You are safe. You are aboard the medical vessel Harmony's Light. I am Lyrae, your assigned medical provider. You were injured and we are helping you recover." The translation was clunky but clear enough. Jinho's racing heart slowed slightly, though whether that was the neural dampener or the explanation he couldn't tell. He forced himself to take slow breaths and look around more carefully. The room was circular with smooth white walls that seemed to glow from within. Strange instruments hung from the ceiling on flexible arms, reminding him of the surgical robots he'd seen in Earth hospitals, but more organic looking, almost alive. Everything was too clean, too smooth, too alien. "What happened to me?" Jinho asked, directing his question to the air since he didn't know where the translator was. Lyrae moved closer, and Jinho noticed how she seemed to glide rather than walk. She touched another panel and suddenly a holographic display appeared above his body, showing what looked like a scan of his insides. His skeleton glowed bright white against the darker organs, and he could see several spots marked in red. "Your spacecraft encountered a debris field," the translator voice said while Lyrae's hands gestured at the display. "You sustained impact injuries. 3 of your ribs are fractured here, here, and here." She pointed with different hands at each spot. "You also have internal bruising in your chest cavity and abdomen. Your head suffered minor trauma resulting in temporary loss of consciousness." Jinho stared at the scan. He remembered now. He'd been on routine patrol, alone in his single-pilot scout craft. Something had appeared on his sensors too fast to avoid. Then nothing until waking up here. "How long was I out?" he asked. "Approximately 14 of your Earth hours," Lyrae responded through the translator. "We administered cellular repair accelerators and stabilized your fractures. However, I must perform a complete physical examination to ensure there are no injuries the scanners might have missed. Some species have anomalies that standard medical scans cannot detect." Jinho felt his face heat up. Physical examination. He was wearing some kind of thin medical gown that barely covered anything. The idea of this alien, this female alien examining him made his stomach twist with embarrassment. But what choice did he have? "Do what you need to do," he said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. Lyrae made a gesture with 2 of her hands that might have been acknowledgement. The restraints holding Jinho down released with a soft hiss. He slowly sat up, wincing at the sharp pain in his ribs. The neural dampener must have worn off because everything hurt now. "Please lie back," the translator said. "Movement will cause pain. I will apply a localized pain blocker." Before he could respond, Lyrae's hand pressed a small device against his chest. Cool relief spread through his torso like water on a burn. The pain didn't disappear completely, but it became manageable, distant. Jinho lay back down and tried to focus on the glowing ceiling instead of what was about to happen. He'd been through medical exams before, plenty of them. This shouldn't be different. Except it was completely different because the doctor was a four-armed blue alien who probably had no idea about human concepts of modesty or personal space. Lee picked up what looked like a handheld scanner from a tray beside the medical bed. It emitted a soft violet light and hummed quietly. She started at his head, moving the device slowly over his skull, and Jinho felt a slight tingling sensation wherever the light touched. "I'm checking for microfractures in your cranial structure," the translator explained. "Also monitoring for any swelling in your brain tissue. Please remain still and breathe normally." Her hands moved with careful precision, methodical and professional. One hand held the scanner while another took notes on a floating display that followed her around the room. Her third hand occasionally touched his head gently, tilting it slightly for better angles. The fourth hand held a different instrument that seemed to measure his vital signs. Jinho tried to relax. This was just a medical procedure. Lyrie was clearly a professional. The fact that she had 4 arms and blue skin didn't change that she was just doing her job. He focused on breathing steadily as she worked her way down from his head to his neck, then across his shoulders. "Your species has significant muscular density," Lyrie's translator voice noted with what might have been curiosity. "Your bone structure is remarkably heavy compared to your body mass. Is this normal for all humans?" "Yeah," Jinho answered. "We evolved on a planet with higher gravity than most places, I guess. Makes us denser than we look." Lyrie made a musical sound that the translator didn't interpret. She continued the examination, scanning his chest, being extra careful around his fractured ribs. Her touch was gentle, almost feather-light, clearly trying not to cause him any discomfort. Despite everything, Jinho felt himself starting to trust her. The scanner moved lower across his stomach. Jinho stared hard at the ceiling. This was fine. Everything was fine. Just a medical exam. Nothing unusual. Except his heart rate was climbing and he knew it, and he knew she could probably see it on her instruments. "Your cardiovascular activity is increasing," Lyrie observed. "Are you experiencing pain? I can adjust the pain blocker." "No, I'm fine," Jinho said quickly. "Just not used to this." "Understood. I will proceed as quickly as possible while maintaining thoroughness." The scanner continued downward. Lyrie continued her examination with the same careful attention she'd shown from the start. Her species, the Velthians, were known throughout the galaxy as exceptional healers. They approached medicine with a combination of advanced technology and genuine care that made them highly sought after on medical vessels across the Coalition. She'd been trained to work with dozens of different species. She'd treated reptilian saurians with their multiple hearts, gaseous nebulites who barely had physical forms at all, and even the crystalline shardborn whose bodies were more mineral than organic. Each species had their own unique biology and needs, but humans were new. They'd only made contact with the Galactic Coalition 6 months ago, and medical data on them was still limited. Lyrie had studied what little information was available, but reading reports was different from actually treating one. This Jinho Park was only the 3rd human she'd ever seen in person. What struck her most was how expressive his face was. Velthians communicated partly through the color patterns on their skin, but humans used their faces in ways she found fascinating. Right now, Jinho's face was darker than it had been before, especially his cheeks. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were fixed on the ceiling with unusual intensity. She wondered if this meant pain or something else. "I am now scanning your lower abdomen and pelvic region," she announced through the translator as she'd been taught. This area showed signs of potential internal bleeding in the initial scans. "I must verify that no organs were damaged in the impact." Jinho made a sound in his throat that the translator didn't interpret. His whole body seemed to tense up. Lyrie moved the scanner lower, keeping her movements smooth and professional. The medical gown he wore was standard issue, designed to provide easy access for examination while keeping patients comfortable. She'd used these gowns on hundreds of patients without issue. She adjusted the gown slightly to get a clear scan of his lower abdomen. Her hand, cool against his skin, rested gently on his hip to steady him. The scanner hummed as it worked, emitting its soft violet light. She needed to check his bladder, his intestines, and the surrounding tissue for any signs of damage. The scanner passed over his pelvic area, and she felt him go completely rigid beneath her touch. That was odd. The pain blocker should have prevented any discomfort. Maybe she'd applied it incorrectly. Her species didn't experience pain the same way mammals did, so sometimes she misjudged dosages. Then she noticed the scanner readings were showing something unexpected. Increased blood flow to his lower region, but not in a pattern that suggested injury. His heart rate had jumped significantly. Hormonal indicators were spiking across the board. But there was no sign of trauma or damage, and then she saw it. A physical change that her medical training hadn't prepared her for. Something was happening to the human's body that she didn't understand. Something that made no sense in the context of a medical examination. Lyrae froze, her hand still resting on his hip, her scanner still emitting its light. Her skin pattern shifted to a pale, almost white color, the Velthian equivalent of confusion and concern. What was happening? Had she triggered some kind of medical crisis? Was this human experiencing a dangerous reaction to the scanner? To her touch? She quickly checked the scanner readings again. Blood pressure elevated but not dangerously so. Breathing rapid but steady. Brain activity showing patterns she didn't recognize. Nothing indicated immediate medical danger, but something was definitely wrong. "I apologize," she said through the translator, immediately withdrawing her hand. "I appear to have caused an adverse reaction. Please remain calm while I summon my supervisor." Jinho's face had turned an even darker shade of red, almost purple. He covered his face with his hands and made a sound that might have been distress. Or perhaps pain. His voice came out strained and tight. "No, wait, nothing's wrong. I'm fine. This is normal. It's not. You didn't do anything wrong." But Lyrae was already pressing the emergency call button on her wrist communicator. In her training, they'd emphasized that any unexpected reaction during an examination required immediate supervisor notification. She wasn't going to risk this patient's health because of pride or hesitation. "Supervisor required in Medical Bay 7, she transmitted. "Human patient showing unexpected physiological response during examination. No apparent danger but cause unknown." Jinho was trying to sit up now, which was definitely not recommended given his fractured ribs. Lyrae gently but firmly pressed him back down with two of her hands. "Please do not move," she said. "You will injure yourself further. My supervisor will arrive shortly and we will determine what has happened." "Nothing happened," Jinho insisted, his voice almost pleading now. It's a human thing. It's biological. It's not dangerous. Please, you don't need to call anyone." But it was too late. The door to the medical bay slid open and Dr. Taven entered, his silver-tinged skin marking him as one of the elder Velthians. He'd been practicing medicine for over 60 years and had seen almost everything the galaxy could present. "Report," he said simply, his musical voice calm and measured. Lyrae quickly explained what had happened, showing him the scanner readings and pointing out the anomalous physiological changes. Dr. Taven studied the data with academic interest, his head tilting in the characteristic Velthian gesture of curiosity. "Fascinating," he said, moving closer to examine Jinho. "I have not encountered this before. Human, can you explain what is occurring with your body?" Jinho looked like he wanted to disappear into the medical bed. His hands were still covering his face and his voice came out muffled and miserable. Look, this is really embarrassing. Can we maybe not discuss this with an audience?" "Embarrassing?" Dr. Taven repeated, the translator struggling with the word. "This term is not in my database for human emotions. Please explain." Jinho slowly lowered his hands and looked at the ceiling again, refusing to make eye contact with either of the Velthians. He took a deep breath and started talking in a flat, defeated voice that made Lyrae feel unexpectedly bad for him. "Humans have this thing where physical touch can trigger biological responses related to reproduction. It's not conscious. It's not something we control. It just happens sometimes when certain areas are touched or stimulated. It's completely involuntary and it doesn't mean anything except that the nervous system is working correctly." Dr. Taven's skin pattern shifted to a bright, interested blue. Lyrae recognized that color. It meant he was in full scientific curiosity mode. "Remarkable," the doctor said. "So this is a reproductive response triggered by non-reproductive physical contact? How inefficient. Does this occur frequently? Can we please not talk about efficiency right now?" Jinho said, his voice strained. Lyrae suddenly understood what had happened, and with understanding came horror. She had caused this patient distress through her examination. In Velthian culture, causing discomfort to someone under your care was one of the worst failures a medical provider could commit. Her skin flushed through a series of dark colors expressing her distress. "I have caused you harm," she said. her four hands coming together in the formal Velthian apology gesture. This was not my intention. I followed proper examination protocols, but I did not account for species-specific responses. The fault is mine. I ask for your forgiveness. Jinho finally looked at her, and she saw something in his human eyes that surprised her. Not anger. Not even real distress. Something softer. Maybe understanding? You didn't do anything wrong, he said quietly. You were just doing your job. I should have warned you, but honestly, I didn't think this would happen either. It's just one of those weird human things. I'm not hurt. I'm not upset with you. I'm just really, really embarrassed. Which is this human emotion that means I feel uncomfortable because something socially awkward happened. Embarrassment, Dr. Taven repeated, clearly filing this information away. Another emotional response we must add to the human medical database. This species is proving remarkably complex. Lyrie's skin was still showing dark apologetic colors. She couldn't shake the feeling that she'd failed somehow, even though the human kept insisting otherwise. Dr. Taven pulled up a floating chair and sat down beside the medical bed, clearly settling in for a long conversation. Jinho groaned internally. This was getting worse by the minute. The doctor's skin was glowing with that bright blue color that apparently meant curiosity. And Jinho had a sinking feeling about where this was heading. I must ask you questions about human reproductive biology, Dr. Taven said with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. The Galactic Coalition has limited data on your species. This information will be valuable for medical databases and will help prevent similar incidents in the future. You will be helping all humans who receive medical care from non-human providers. Well, when he put it that way, how could Jinho refuse? He was still mortified, but the doctor had a point. Better to have this awkward conversation now than have 100 other humans go through the same embarrassment later. Fine, Jinho said, resigned to his fate. What do you want to know? For the next 20 minutes, Jinho gave what was possibly the most uncomfortable biology lesson of his life. He explained human reproductive systems, the differences between male and female humans, how hormones worked, and yes, the involuntary physical responses that could occur from various types of stimulation. Dr. Taven listened with fascination, occasionally asking questions that made Jinho want to crawl under the medical bed and hide. Lyrie stood quietly to the side during most of this, her skin patterns shifting through various colors that Jinho was learning to read. Confusion, understanding, more confusion, something that might have been sympathy. He appreciated that she wasn't adding to the interrogation. So this response can occur even when reproduction is not desired or intended? Dr. Taven asked at one point. Yes, Jinho confirmed. It's just a reflex. Like when your doctor taps your knee and your leg kicks out. You don't decide to kick, it just happens. This is the same thing, just more embarrassing. Embarrassment, Dr. Taven repeated again, clearly fascinated by this emotion. You keep using this word. In Velthian culture, bodily functions are simply biological facts. There is no emotional response attached to them. Why do humans feel discomfort about natural processes? Jinho thought about that. I guess it's about social rules and context. We have a lot of cultural ideas about privacy and what's appropriate in different situations. Medical exams are supposed to be professional and clinical. Having this happen during one feels like breaking those social rules, even though nobody did anything wrong. It's complicated. Humans are indeed complex, Dr. Taven said, standing up. I will add this information to our medical database with your permission. I will make notes that physical examinations of humans may trigger involuntary responses that should not be interpreted as medical emergencies or as any form of social interaction. Great, Jinho muttered. I'm glad my embarrassment can serve science. Dr. Taven's skin shifted to a warm yellow color that seemed friendly. You have handled this situation with grace despite your discomfort. That speaks well of your character. I will leave you now. Nurse Lyrie will complete your examination if you are comfortable with that. Or I can assign another provider if you prefer. He looked at Lyrie, who was still standing there looking like she'd personally offended the universe. Her skin was cycling through muted, unhappy colors, and her four hands kept making small apologetic gestures. Lyrie can finish, Jinho said. She didn't do anything wrong. I trust her. Dr. Taven made an approving gesture with his hands and left the room. The door slid shut behind him with a soft hiss, leaving Jinho and Lyrie alone together in the suddenly very quiet medical bay. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lyra moved closer to the bed, her movements hesitant in a way they hadn't been before. "I truly did not mean to cause you distress," she said quietly. "In my culture, caring for the sick is a sacred duty. To cause harm, even unintentional emotional harm, goes against everything I believe as a healer." Jinho sat up carefully, mindful of his ribs. He looked at her directly, trying to convey sincerity across the vast biological and cultural gap between them. "Lyra, listen to me. You didn't cause harm. You did your job exactly right. What happened was just my biology being stupid at a bad time. If anyone should apologize, it's me for not warning you that humans are apparently walking bundles of embarrassing involuntary responses." Her skin lightened slightly, shifting toward a more neutral blue. "You could not have warned me because you did not expect it to occur. Dr. Taven explained that these responses are not predictable." "Exactly," Jinho said. "So nobody did anything wrong. It was just an awkward moment between two people from completely different species who are still learning about each other. That's all?" Lyra's hands came together in a gesture he was learning meant acceptance or agreement. "You are generous with your understanding. Most species are less forgiving of mistakes." "It wasn't a mistake. It was just life being weird." Jinho smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "Besides, I'm sure I'll do something equally confusing to you at some point." "We can call it even." "Perhaps," Lyra said, and though he couldn't read her face the way he could read a human's, something in her posture seemed to relax. "I should complete your examination now. We still need to verify that you have no hidden injuries." "Right," Jinho said. "Let's do this. And look, now that we both understand what might happen, it'll be less weird, right?" Lyra picked up her scanner again. "I will proceed with awareness of potential responses. I will work as quickly and professionally as possible." She was true to her word. The rest of the examination went smoothly, though Jinho kept his eyes firmly on the ceiling and thought very hard about boring things like inventory reports and maintenance schedules. Lyra's touch remained gentle and clinical, and she narrated everything she was doing in that calm, professional voice through the translator. When she finally announced that the examination was complete and all his injuries were healing properly, Jinho felt relief wash over him. He'd survived possibly the most awkward medical exam in human history. "You will need to remain here for approximately 6 more of your Earth days," Lyra explained, pulling up a treatment schedule on her display. "Your ribs must heal sufficiently before you can safely move around without risk of puncturing a lung. I will check on you regularly to monitor your progress." 6 days, Jinho repeated. "Guess I'm not going anywhere then." "You may receive visitors if any of your crew are aboard," Lyra offered. "We also have recreational materials available. Reading materials, visual entertainment programs, and a communication system to contact your home if you wish." "Are any other humans here?" Jinho asked. "My shuttle was solo, but there are other human vessels in this sector." Lyra checked her database. "We have one other human patient 3 levels down, pilot Dami Han. She was brought in yesterday with radiation sickness from a faulty engine shield. She is recovering well. Could I talk to her? Might be nice to see another human face." "I will arrange communication access," Lyra said. She paused, then added, "May I ask you a question? It is not medical." "Sure, go ahead." "Why did you say you trust me? After what happened, many beings would prefer a different provider." Jinho thought about it. "Because you cared that I was uncomfortable. Because you apologized even though you didn't do anything wrong. Because I could see that you genuinely wanted to help me. Not just treat me like a medical problem to solve. That matters more than an awkward moment." Lyra's skin shifted to a warm, gentle purple color. He didn't know what that meant exactly, but it felt positive. "Thank you," she said simply. "I will return in 2 hours to check on you and bring you food." "Do you have dietary restrictions?" "I'm pretty flexible. Just nothing poisonous to humans would be great." "I will consult the human dietary database," she said, and he could swear there was amusement in her musical voice. "Rest now. Your body needs time to heal." She left the room and Jinho lay back on the medical bed staring at the gently pulsing purple ceiling. Well, that had been something. First contact situations were never easy, but this had to be one for the record books. At least it was over now, and they could move forward professionally. The next few days passed in a strange but comfortable routine. Jinho spent most of his time in the medical bay, healing slowly but steadily. Lyra checked on him regularly. bringing food that was surprisingly good considering it had to be synthesized from the human dietary database. She also brought him reading materials about the Galactic Coalition, which Jinho devoured with interest. The awkwardness from their first day together faded quickly. They fell into easy conversation during her visits, teaching each other about their respective species and cultures. Jinho learned that Velthians reproduced through something called spore-based parthenogenesis, where individuals could produce offspring without needing another partner. They had no concept of gender the way humans did, though they used translated pronouns to make other species comfortable. Lyrae learned that humans were oddly fragile in some ways and incredibly resilient in others. She was shocked to discover that humans needed to sleep for roughly 8 hours in one continuous block, which seemed wasteful to her species that only needed to rest for an hour every day. But she was equally amazed that humans could survive injuries that would kill most other species. "Your species has remarkable healing capacity," she observed on the third day while checking his ribs. "These fractures are mending much faster than predicted, and you have been walking around despite advice to rest." Jinho grinned sheepishly. He had been doing laps around the medical bay when she wasn't looking. "Humans don't like lying still for long. We get restless." "I have noticed this tendency," Lyrae said, her skin shifting to an amused orange color. "You are not ideal patients. Sorry we're difficult." Difficult, but interesting. On the fourth day, Jinho finally got to talk to Dami Han through the communication system. The other human pilot appeared on the holographic display, looking tired but in good spirits. Her radiation sickness was responding well to treatment. "So you're the famous Jinho Park," Dami said with a grin. "The nurses up here are all talking about the human who made his medical exam memorable." Jinho felt his face heat up. "Word got around, huh?" "Oh yeah. Apparently the medical staff had a whole meeting about human biological responses and updated their protocols. You're a legend. A mortifying legend, but still. Great, just what I wanted to be known for." Dami laughed. "Hey, better you than me. But seriously, how are you doing? Ribs healing okay?" They talked for a while about their injuries, their ships, and their general confusion about ending up in alien medical care. It felt good to speak to another human, to share the experience of being strangers in a very strange place. But Jinho found himself defending Lyrae when Dami made a comment about alien doctors being cold. "They're different," he said, "but Lyrae actually cares a lot. She's been really good to me." "You sound like you like her," Dami observed. "As a friend, sure. She's interesting. And she's teaching me a lot about the Coalition." After the call ended, Jinho thought about what Dami had said. Did he like Lyrae? Well, yes, but not in any weird way. She was his nurse and his friend. The fact that she was an alien with 4 arms and blue skin didn't change that friendship was possible between them. It was on the 5th day that everything changed. Dr. Taven came to visit, which was unusual since he mostly left routine care to Lyrae. His skin was cycling through dark. Serious colors that Jinho had learned meant concern or worry. "Jinho, I need to speak with you about your injury," the doctor said, closing the door behind him. "Is something wrong? I thought I was healing fine." "Your healing is excellent, but we need to discuss how you came to be injured." Dr. Taven pulled up a holographic display showing what looked like technical schematics. "We analyzed the debris field where your shuttle was found. We also examined the damage to your craft." "Okay," Jinho said slowly, not sure where this was going. "Your shuttle did not encounter random debris. The damage pattern is consistent with deliberate sabotage. Someone placed a small explosive device on your fuel line. When it detonated, it caused a leak that led to engine failure and your crash into the debris field." Jinho felt his blood run cold. "Someone tried to kill me? Why?" "We believe it relates to human integration into the Galactic Coalition," Dr. Taven explained. "There is a faction called the Preservers who resist change. They believe the galaxy has achieved a perfect balance and that introducing new species, especially ones as aggressive and unpredictable as humans, will destabilize everything." "We're not aggressive," Jinho protested. "We came in peace. We're trying to follow all the rules and fit in." "I know this," Dr. Taven said gently, "but the Preservers do not see it that way. They see humans as dangerous variables. You explore aggressively. You take risks that other species find reckless. You adapt and innovate at a pace that frightens those who prefer stability. The Preservers want humanity removed from the Coalition before you can cause what they see as inevitable chaos. So, they're trying to kill us off one by one?" Not all humans. Just enough to make it appear that your species is too dangerous to work with. If enough humans die in apparently accidental ways, the Coalition Council might revoke humanity's membership status. Jinho sat up straighter, ignoring the twinge in his ribs. How many others have been targeted? We do not know. Your case was only discovered because I personally examined your shuttle debris. Most medical vessels would not think to investigate an apparent accident. Dr. Taven's colors shifted darker. I have contacted Coalition Security, but there are concerns that the Preservers have agents throughout the organization. We cannot be certain who to trust, so what do I do? You need to reach the Coalition Capital Station and testify before the Council directly. With evidence of sabotage, they can open a formal investigation, but it will be dangerous. The Preservers will not want you to arrive. Jinho thought about this. Going public with an accusation against a powerful faction sounded like a great way to get killed. But hiding here wouldn't help either. If the Preservers were targeting humans, someone needed to stop them. I'll do it, he said. When can I leave? Not until your ribs are fully healed. Another 2 days at minimum, and you will need allies for the journey. Dr. Taven paused, his skin shifting to an uncertain purple. I have spoken with Lyrae about this situation. What does she say? As if summoned, the door opened and Lyrae entered. Her colors were bright and determined, a pattern Jinho hadn't seen before. I am going with you, she announced. You will need medical support for the journey, and I speak 17 Coalition languages. I can help navigate the bureaucracy at the capital. Lyrae, you don't have to do this, Jinho said. This could be dangerous. You could lose your job or worse. I am aware of the risks, she said calmly, but I have made my decision. The Preservers are wrong about humans. I have treated you. I have spoken with you. You are not dangerous or chaotic. You are simply different, and difference should not be punished with death. Jinho felt something warm in his chest. Here was this alien nurse who barely knew him, willing to risk everything to help him and by extension all of humanity. Thank you, he said quietly. Really, thank you. There is no need for thanks. This is the right action. She turned to Dr. Taven. I have submitted my request for temporary leave. When do we depart? 2 days, the doctor confirmed. I am arranging a medical transport vessel. It will appear to be a routine supply run to the capital. We will also contact pilot Dami Han. She should come with you. 2 humans testifying will be stronger than 1. What about you? Jinho asked. I am too recognizable, too senior. My involvement would raise immediate suspicion, but I will provide you with all the evidence I have gathered and the contact information for allies at the capital who can help you once you arrive. Over the next 2 days, they planned carefully. Dr. Taven proved to have unexpected connections throughout the coalition, and he used them all to arrange safe passage. Dami was released from medical care and brought to Jinho's level. She agreed immediately to help, her face set with determination when she learned about the Preservers. Lyrae spent hours teaching both humans about coalition protocols, important figures they might encounter, and the proper ways to present evidence to the council. She was patient and thorough, her 4 hands constantly moving as she demonstrated various formal gestures and explained subtle cultural differences. The night before they were scheduled to depart, Jinho couldn't sleep. He sat in the medical bay, staring out the viewport at the stars beyond. They looked the same as they did from Earth, despite being light years away from home. Lyrae found him there. The medical transport ship was smaller than Jinho expected, designed for quick trips between stations rather than long voyages. It had a crew of 3 Velthians besides Lyrae, plus Jinho and Dami. The cargo hold was filled with actual medical supplies to maintain their cover story. They departed quietly during what passed for night on the Harmony's light, slipping away while most of the crew slept. Dr. Taven had given them a data chip containing all the evidence of sabotage, along with files showing similar suspicious accidents involving other humans over the past few months. It was damning information if they could get it to the right people. The first 2 days of the journey passed without incident. Jinho spent most of his time in the small passenger cabin with Dami, going over their testimony and making sure they had their facts straight. Lyrae checked on them regularly, bringing food and offering encouragement. You are both very brave, she told them after one practice session. Many beings would hide from such danger. Hiding doesn't solve anything, Dami said. Besides, we're representing all of humanity here. We have to get this right. On the third day, everything went wrong. Jinho was asleep in his bunk when the ship's alarm system blared to life. He jerked awake, his heart pounding, and scrambled out into the corridor. Dami was already there, looking alert despite the early hour. Years of military training meant they both knew how to wake up ready for action. Lyrae rushed toward them, her skin cycling through urgent red patterns. "We are being pursued. 2 ships appeared on our sensors. They are not responding to standard hails. The captain believes they are hostile. The preservers found us," Jinho said grimly. "How did they know?" "Questions later," Dami said. "What are our options?" They hurried to the bridge where the captain and pilot were frantically working their controls. Through the viewport, Jinho could see 2 sleek ships closing in on their position. They were smaller than the transport but clearly designed for combat. "Can we outrun them?" Jinho asked. "No," the captain said, his skin flashing with stress colors. "They are faster and better armed. We are a medical vessel. We have minimal defensive capabilities." "Then we need to outsmart them," Jinho said, moving closer to study the navigation display. His mind was racing, running through scenarios and options. This was what humans did well, improvising under pressure. "There," he pointed at the display. "That asteroid field ahead. Can we reach it before they catch us?" "Yes, but entering an asteroid field is extremely dangerous. The risk of collision is over 70%. "What's the risk if we don't?" Dami asked. The captain's colors dimmed with resignation. "Capture or destruction." 100%. "Then we take the 70% chance," Jinho said. "Head for the asteroid field. Full speed." The captain hesitated only a moment before giving the order. The transport lurched forward, accelerating toward the tumbling rocks ahead. Behind them, the preserver ships matched their speed, drawing closer. They plunged into the asteroid field, and immediately the ride became rough. The transport shook and rattled as the pilot desperately maneuvered between spinning rocks the size of buildings. Warning alarms screamed as near misses came within meters of the hull. "They are still pursuing," the captain reported. "They are not deterred by the field." Jinho studied the navigation display intensely. There he saw it. A gap between 2 massive asteroids that was barely wide enough for their ship. Too narrow for safe passage by any sane pilot's standards, but behind that gap, the field opened into a clearer area where they might lose their pursuers. "There," he pointed. "That gap. Can we fit through it?" The pilot looked at him like he was insane. The clearance is less than 3 meters on each side. At this speed, the slightest calculation error would tear us apart. "But we can fit," Jinho pressed. "Technically, yes. But no pilot would attempt such a maneuver. It is suicide." "I'll do it," Jinho said. "Let me pilot." Everyone stared at him. Dami grabbed his arm. "Jinho, you're not rated for this type of ship. But I've flown through tighter spaces in my shuttle. I have the reflexes for this." He looked at the captain. "Your pilot is right. This is suicide by normal standards. But humans have different standards. We take risks that other species won't. Sometimes that's exactly what you need." The captain and pilot exchanged glances. Their colors shifted uncertainly. Behind them, another proximity alarm blared as a pursuing ship fired a warning shot across their bow. "Let him try," Lyrae said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "I have observed this human for days. He is capable of actions that defy our logical predictions. That is what makes humans valuable. Trust him." The captain made a decision. "Take the controls." Jinho slid into the pilot's seat, his hands finding the controls. They were different from human designs, but similar enough that he could work with them. He took a deep breath, centering himself, and focused entirely on the gap ahead. Time seemed to slow down. He could see every detail of the asteroids, calculate every angle and trajectory. His hands moved with precise confidence, adjusting their course in tiny increments. The ship responded sluggishly, much slower than his agile little shuttle, but he adapted. They approached the gap. The entire crew held their breath. The asteroids loomed on either side like the jaws of some cosmic predator. Jinho's hands never wavered. They entered the gap. Metal scraped against rock on the starboard side, sending a shower of sparks into space. An alarm screamed about hull breach. Jinho adjusted, pulling them a fraction to port. More scraping, this time on the other side. The ship shuddered violently, and then they were through. Behind them, one of the pursuing ships tried to follow. It wasn't as lucky. The crew watched in grim silence as the preserver vessel clipped an asteroid and went spinning off into the field, emergency lights flashing as it lost control. The second preserver ship pulled back, unwilling to risk the same fate. It hovered at the edge of the field, but it didn't pursue. "We are clear," the captain announced, his skin shifting to relieved blues and greens. "The pursuer is retreating." Everyone on the bridge seemed to exhale at once. Dami clapped Jinho on the shoulder hard enough to make him wince, forgetting about his recently healed ribs. "That was the craziest flying I've ever seen," she said with a wild grin. "Absolutely insane. Brilliantly insane." Lyra moved to check the controls, her medical instincts kicking in. "Your heart rate is extremely elevated." "Are you injured?" "Just adrenaline," Jinho said, his hands finally starting to shake now that the immediate danger had passed. "I'm okay. You saved us all," the captain said, approaching Jinho with all his hands extended in a formal gesture of gratitude. "No Velthian pilot would have attempted what you did. Your human willingness to embrace risk has proven invaluable." The rest of the journey to the coalition capital took 4 more days, but they encountered no further pursuit. Word of their narrow escape must have spread because when they finally docked at the massive capital station, they were met by coalition security forces who immediately escorted them to a safe location. The testimony before the council took 2 full days. Jinho and Dami presented all their evidence while Lyra provided medical context and Dr. Taven's research appeared via recorded testimony. The council members, representing dozens of species, listened with varying degrees of shock and concern. In the end, the evidence was irrefutable. The council voted unanimously to launch a full investigation into the preservers, and several arrests were made within days. More importantly, they established new protocols for investigating accidents involving humans and created a special task force to ensure humanity's safe integration into the coalition. But the council went further than just security measures. Inspired by Lyra's testimony about learning to understand humans through direct interaction, they announced the creation of the Cross-Species Medical Exchange Program. Medical professionals from different species would work together, learning about each other's biology and culture in a direct, practical way. The program would start with humans and Velthians, then expand to other species. Lyra was offered the position of head coordinator for the program's first joint medical facility, a hospital that would serve both humans and aliens. She accepted immediately. Jinho, for his part, was offered a position in Earth's diplomatic corps as a cultural liaison. His experience navigating the gap between human and alien thinking made him valuable in ways he'd never imagined. 6 months later, Jinho stood at the opening ceremony for the new joint medical facility. It was a massive structure orbiting a neutral moon, with sections designed for different species needs. Human doctors worked alongside Velthian nurses, Saurian physicians trained with human surgeons. Everywhere he looked, he saw beings from different worlds learning from each other. Lyra found him standing at the observation window looking out at the stars. "Reflecting on how far we have come?" she asked, her skin a warm, friendly blue. "Something like that," Jinho said with a smile, thinking about how this all started with the most embarrassing medical exam in history. Lyra's colors shifted to amused orange. "That moment taught us both something valuable. That difference is not something to fear or hide from. It is something to understand and embrace. And that sometimes awkward moments lead to good things," Jinho added. They stood together in comfortable silence, human and Velthian, watching the ships come and go from the station.